All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, very good. Let's go ahead and get started. We're on the record in 23 CPR 039377, estate of Luis M. Ford. All those who intend to testify, if you'd raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Very good. Miss Alexander, you may take it from here.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Amick, can you please state your full name for the record?
Elizabeth Bryan Amick,
And what is your relationship to the decedent, Louise M. Ford?
granddaughter.
And is your address and last three digits of driver's license and last three digits of your social security number correctly reflected in the application?
Yes.
And did the decedent pass away on May 23rd, 2023 at Katy, Fort Bend County, Texas at the age of 92 years?
Yes.
And was her domicile at the time of her death Katy, Fort Bend County, Texas?
Yes.
And are the last three digits of her driver's license number and the last three digits of her social security number correctly reflected in the application?
Yes.
Okay, and Your Honor, this court has jurisdiction and venue is proper because decedent was domiciled in Texas and had a fixed place of residence in this county on the date of her death. Ms. Amick, did the decedent own property generally described as cash, personal effects, and household goods with a probable value in excess of $100,000?
Yes.
And did she leave a valid written will dated May 28th, 2021, which was never revoked?
Yes.
Okay. In Your Honor, we ask the court to take judicial notice of the original last will and testament filed with the court.
The court shall take judicial notice.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Ms. Amick, does a necessity exist for the administration of the estate?
Yes.
And after the date of the will, was any child born to or adopted by the decedent?
No.
And was any marriage of the decedent ever dissolved after the will was made?
No.
And did the decedent's will nominate Ann M. Ashworth as first independent executor and then Gloria A. White as first successor independent executor, both to act independently without bond or other security?
Yes.
However, both Ann M. Ashworth and Gloria A. White have declined to serve and filed waivers herewith. Is that true?
Yes.
And therefore, the decedent's will nominated you, Elizabeth Bryan Amick, as second successor independent executor to act independently without bond or other security, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And you are not disqualified by law from serving as such or from accepting letters, testamentary, and you are entitled to such letters. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And no state governmental agency of the state or charitable organization is named by the will as a devisee, correct?
Right. No. Yeah.
And 4 years have not elapsed since the passing of the decedent.
No.
Correct.
Correct. Yes.
And Your Honor, the will was made self-proved in the manner prescribed by law, and the subscribing witnesses to the will were Janet Dickerson and Linda Deffett. Applicant prays that the court be admitted to probate and that she be appointed independent executor of the estate to serve without bond, that letters testamentary be issued to Elizabeth Bryan Amick, and that all other orders be entered as the court may deem proper.
All right. According to the testimony of Elizabeth Bryan Amick, testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts, the court will admit the will into probate and appoint Miss Amick as independent executrix to serve without bond, and appraisers will be waived. Miss Amick, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Anything further, Miss Alexander?
No, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You have a good day.
Thank you all. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're on the record in 23 CPR 040036, the state of Fanny Cepeda Pedraza. All those who intend to testify, if you'd raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Well, I can't hear you.
You hear me now?
Yes,
Okay, I do, Your Honor.
very good. All right, Ms. Villarreal, you may get started.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. McMahon, please state your full name.
Lydia Viviana McMahon.
Were you well acquainted with Fanny Cepeda Pedraza, the decedent?
Yes,
How were you acquainted with her?
she was my mother.
Did your mother die on November 5th, 2019 in Fort Bend County, Texas, at the age of 79 years old?
Yes,
Was the date of her death less than 4 years prior to the filing of the application for probate of will and issuance of letters testamentary, which we filed on your behalf on October 27, 2023?
yes,
Was Fanny Cepeda Pedraza a resident of Fort Bend County at the time of her passing?
yes.
Your Honor, are you going to show the will or should I reference it?
Yes, I can show. 1 second. Let me pull it up.
Thank you. Meanwhile, I would like to request that the court take judicial notice that the document on file with the court is the original will of Fanny Cepeda Pedraza.
The court shall take judicial notice.
You are now shown the document dated March 10, 2017, which purports to be Fanny Cepeda Pedraza's will. To the best of your knowledge, did she ever revoke this will?
No, she did not.
Is there a necessity for administration?
Yes, there is.
After the date of the will, were any children born to or adopted by your mom?
No, there were not.
And was any marriage of hers dissolved after the date of this will?
No,
Did the will name the state of Texas, a governmental agency of the state of Texas, or a charitable organization as a devisee?
no,
And the will appoints you to serve as independent executor. As far as you know, are you qualified to serve as such and to accept letters testamentary?
yes,
Your Honor, we ask that Lydia Viviana McMahon be appointed independent executor to serve without bond and that appraisers be waived.
All right, the court heard the testimony of Lydia Viviana McMahon. She testified as to the proof of death, fully the will, and other facts. The court will admit the will to probate and appoint Ms. McMahon as independent executrix to serve without bond, and appraisers will be waived as well. Ms. McMahon, I'm very sorry for your loss.
thank you.
Ms. Villarreal, anything further?
No, Your Honor, thank you very much. May we be excused?
Yes, you may. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
You
Thank
too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I have two for Miss Dean's office. I'm here. We're going to start with Hickson.
Yes, and actually we have three. So Hickson, Sal, and Benton.
Yeah, but I have two in the that have zoomed in here. So
Okay, great.
let me put this one back. And Miss Horner, are you there? Miss Horner, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, very good. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. We're on the record in 23 CPR 040011, estate of Royce D. Hickson, also known as Royce Dean Hickson, and also known as Royce Hickson. All those who intend to testify, if you would raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Ms. Horner, is it possible that you could turn your video on? There we go. All right, if each of you would raise your right hand, do each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Very good. All right. Let's go ahead and get started, Ms. Dean.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Ms. LeBlanc, can you state your full name for the court, please?
Robin Michelle LeBlanc?
And are you also known as Robin LeBlanc and Robin Michelle Hickson LeBlanc?
Yes.
And you're the applicant in this matter, is that correct?
Yes.
And it's true that Royce D. Hickson, also known as Royce Dean Hickson and also known as Royce Hickson, was your father.
Yes.
And it's true that your father passed away on July 30th, 2020, at his residence here in Fort Bend County at the age of 76 years old.
Yes.
And it's true that he was a resident of this county at the time of his death.
Yes.
And so, Your Honor, if you could put on the screen the last will and testament of Mr. Hickson.
Right.
And would you
Second.
take, and also if you could take judicial notice of the original will on file with the court.
The court shall take judicial notice.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Ms. Hickson, or Ms. LeBlanc, can you see this on the
Yes.
state, on the screen here? Okay, great. And can you see your father's signature there?
Yes.
And you do recognize it as his signature?
Yes.
Okay, and you recognize this will as his last will and testament?
Yes.
Okay, and the document is dated December 28th, 2013. This will, he never revoked this will, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and this will is not self-proved. It has two witnesses, but it didn't have a notary, and so it didn't have all the formalities of a will, is that correct?
Correct.
But it is a valid will. So your father was about the age of 18 years of age when he signed this and was of sound mind.
Yes.
And he was under no undue influence, as far as you're aware of. Is that correct?
Correct.
And after the date of the will, which was December 28th, 2013, there were no children born to or adopted by your father. Is that correct?
Correct.
And after the date of the will, is it true that no marriage of your father was dissolved? Is that
Correct.
and it's true that the will does not provide for any gifts to the state of Texas, the political subdivision thereof, or any charity. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And there is a necessity for the administration of this estate. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you are qualified and not disqualified to serve as independent executrix without bond and to receive letters testimony.
Yes.
And it's true that this estate is not a taxable estate.
Yes.
And because of that, you're asking this court to waive the appointment of appraisers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ask the witness, Your Honor.
Call your next witness.
Okay, and I call Ms. Margot Horner.
Yes.
Okay, can you please state your name for the court, Ms. Horner?
Yes, Margot Ann Horner.
And do you see the will that was put on the screen?
Yes, I did.
Okay, did you recognize your signature to that will?
Yes, I did.
And you were a witness, a subscribing witness to that will, is that correct?
Correct.
And the will was signed on December 28th, 2013. And you were there with Mr. Hickson, Royce D. Hickson, and you saw him sign as well as Well, did you see him sign at that time?
Yes, yes, I
And
did.
your husband was also the other witness, B.G.
Yes.
Horner, is that correct?
Yes,
He's
correct.
now deceased, is that right?
yes,
Okay,
Yeah.
but he was also in the room and witnessed Mr. Horner or Mr. Hickson sign this, is that
we were
correct?
all there, correct. Mhm.
Okay, good. And at the time that Mr. Hickson signed, which was December 28th, 2013, Mr. Hickson was of sound mind and above the age of 18 and was under no undue influence, is that correct?
Correct,
And at the date of the will, you and your husband were above the age of 14, right?
right, yeah,
Sorry, I had to ask.
yeah.
And you recognize Mr. Royce Hickson's signature on that too, as well. Is that
Yes,
right?
as well,
And to the best of your knowledge, Mr. Hickson never revoked that will.
right, correct.
And so, Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Excuse me?
Oh, I just told the judge
Oh,
that
I'm
I
sorry,
passed the
you're
witness,
speaking
and
to-
yes,
oh,
so I've asked you
excuse me.
all the questions I have for you, and the judge may have some, but that's all I have.
I have no questions. The court heard the testimony of Robin, Michelle LeBlanc, and Margaret Horner. They testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts. The court will admit the will to probate and appoint Ms. LeBlanc as independent executrix to serve without bond, and appraisers will be waived as well. And Ms. LeBlanc, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Ms.
Your
Horner,
Honor.
and Ms. Horner,
Yes.
thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Have a good day.
I appreciate it.
All right, Ms. Dean, your next case, Sal, so?
So, yes, so
Yeah.
they're all virtual. And the witnesses are virtual, so we have Vicky Sow and James Sow, husband and wife. And the same witnesses for both Michael Grisafi and Kenneth Lee.
We're just waiting on Mr. Lee to connect.
Okay, great.
Seems like Mr. Lee's having issues connecting his audio. Is there any way somebody can reach out to him and ask him
Yes.
to connect?
Yes, I will ask.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, someone on my team is reaching out now.
Thank you. Thanks. Ms. Dean, do you want to go to your next case
Sure,
while we're waiting?
Give me 30 seconds. We'll be right there. Just go to the other room. Let me just put this on mute.
I can do that. I got it. Mr. Sal, we're going to just be a minute while we try to figure out Mr. Lee's issue and get him connected, okay? We're
Got
going
it.
to move on to the next case. We'll come right back to you. I'll leave you right here, though, okay?
Okay, thank you very.
Thank you. Yeah.
And who do we have with you, Miss Dean?
So with me is the applicant. This is Beverly Ann Benton, and then her friend is also here. Just courtroom. Her name is Deborah Michael, but she will not be testifying.
Miss Aldridge, can you hear me? And Joyce Benton, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
All right. Joyce Benton, can you hear me? Oh, I was just informed that Miss Graham, who's not in the waiting room right now, is in a forced meds hearing in Harris County and will be a few minutes.
Okay.
So,
Looks like I'll go back to the other room.
yeah, well, that's fine. And Mr. Lee is now connected, so we can move to his case next.
Okay, yeah,
I'll
let me
move to
do
back
that.
to his case. All right.
Oh,
Thank you.
right. So
All right, Mr. Grisafi?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Okay, I believe we are all connected now for this case. We're going to start with Vicky Sal first. So we're on the record in 23 CPR 039258, estate of Vicky W. Sal, also known as Vicky W. Sal, also known as Vicky Hassan Wee Sal, also known as Hassan Wee Sal, also known as Vicky Wee Sal, also known as Hassan Wee Sal. All right. All those who intend to testify, if you raise your right hand. Do each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Very good. You can all lower your hands. And Miss Dean, you may take it from here. And let me go ahead.
okay, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Sal, if you could please state your full name for the court.
Yes, it's Alwyn James Tsao.
Okay, and are you also known as Alwyn J. Sal and as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you're the applicant in this matter, is that correct?
Yes.
And it's true that your mother, or that Vicky Esau, or I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me, exactly how you pronounce it, but Vicky Esau was your mother, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you give me all the other names of your mother?
Yeah, she went by Vicky Ishen Wei Cao. Ishen was her Chinese name, and Wei was her maiden last name.
Okay.
Yes.
Great, thank you. And it's true your mother died on September 29th, 2021, here in Fort Bend County at the age of 86 years old. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And she was a resident of this county, Fort Bend County, at the time of her death. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, if you could take judicial notice of a true copy of the will that was submitted to the court.
The court shall take judicial notice.
Thank you, Your Honor. And if you could bring that up on the screen so that I can show that to Mr. Sal. Thank you. So, Mr. Sal, can you see the last will and testament of your mother here?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recognize your mother's signature and her initials?
Yes, I do.
And this is a document dated May 4th, 2009, which purports to be your mother's will. Are you familiar with the will? And
Yes.
and was this your mother's last will and testament?
Yes, ma'am.
And you did a thorough search to try to find the original of the will, but we could only find a copy of the will. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. To the best of your knowledge, your mother never revoked this will. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And you also, it was true that after the date of the will, which is May 4th, 2009, no children were born to or adopted by your mother.
Yes, that's correct.
And after the date of the will, it's true that no marriage was dissolved. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And it's true that this will does not give any gifts to the state of Texas, a political subdivision thereof, or any charity. Is that also correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And there is a necessity to administer your mother's estate. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it's true that the will appoints you to serve as independent executor without bond. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you're qualified and not disqualified to serve as independent executor without bond and to receive letters testamentary.
Yes.
And it's true that this estate is not a taxable estate.
Yes, that's correct.
And so as a result, you're asking this court to waive the appointment of appraisers. Is that right?
Yes.
Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Call your next witness.
Okay, call Mr. Grisafi at this time. Mr. Grisafi, if you could please state your full name for the court.
Oh, you're muted, sir.
All right, sorry, it's Michael Grisafi.
And are you also known as Michael A. Grisafi?
Yes.
Okay, and how do you know Vicky Sal?
Vicky was a client of mine for a number of years. I think we started doing business in 2005.
And you're a financial advisor?
Yes.
Okay, and who do you work with?
I work with Wells Fargo Advisors.
Okay, thank you. And so, I'm sorry, tell the court again how long you've known Vicky, Miss Vicky Sal?
Since 2005.
Okay, great. And it's true that you're familiar with Miss Sal's handwriting and signature?
Yes.
Okay. And have you, when the will was up on the screen, did you recognize that as Miss Sal's signature?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you've compared that to signatures you have when you open new accounts, is that correct?
Yes, not specifically looking at the original documents because I do not have those, but looking at the signature and my experience from all the documents that she has signed for me over the years,
Okay.
that is in line with what I recognize.
Okay, great. And on May 4th, 2009, which is when Ms. Sal signed her will, you were familiar with her during that time?
Yes.
Okay. And so she was of sound mind during that time and over the age of 18 years old. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did she ever mention to you if she revoked this will?
No, she did not.
And you have no reason to believe that she did revoke this will?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Call your next witness.
I call Mr. Lee.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Can you please state your full name for the court?
Kenneth Lee. Last name is L.I., also known as Kenneth Chi Lee, C.H.I. middle name.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Lee. How did you know Miss Sao?
Well, Mr. James Howe is my professor when I studied at Houston Baptist University in the 1980s. And he introduced me to his family, including Vicky at that time. Yes. So since 1980s.
So you know him professionally, or as a student and also personally?
That's right.
Okay.
But we're also a family friend. He knows my uncle as well at that time.
Okay, great. And how long have you known Miss Sao?
How long? Well, since 1981. So yeah,
Quite a long time.
many years.
And it's true that you are familiar with her handwriting and her signature?
I've seen her handwriting because I was born in Taiwan. I know Chinese, and so sometimes we communicate in Chinese.
You've seen it both in English and in Chinese?
Yes, in both.
Okay, when you saw her signature on the screen with the will, last will and testament, did you recognize that as Miss Sao's signature?
Yes.
Okay, and as far as you're aware, at the time that she was signed this will, which was May 4th, 2009, that she was over the age of 18 and had sound mind. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And as far as you know, she never revoked this will. Is that correct?
No,
or you have no reason
not,
to believe?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Yeah, and you have no reason to believe that she would have revoked this will. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Your Honor, I pass the witness.
You can call your next witness. Do you have any further?
No, I have no more witnesses for Vicky Sao's estate. The next state would be her husband, James Sao.
All right, the court heard the testimony of Alwyn James Sao, Kenneth Lee, and Michael Versafi. They testified as to the proof of death, the will, and other facts regarding a copy of the will, I should say. The court will admit a copy of the will into probate and appoint to Mr. Alwyn J. Sao, also known as Alwyn James Sao, as independent executor to serve without bond, and appraisers will be waived as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, let's move into James Sao's case. 1 second while I pull everything up. And there will be no further witnesses, correct, on this one?
So they'll have the same witnesses, Mr. Grisafi and Mr. Lee will be witnesses as well.
All right, we're on the record in 23 CPR 039492, estate of James Yun Sao, James Y. Sao, and James J. Y. Sao. All those who intend to testify, if you'd raise your right hand again. Each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Ms. Dean, you may take it from here.
Thank you, Mr. Sao. Again, please state your full name for the court.
Alwyn James Sao.
Okay, and you're also known as Alwyn J. Sao, and you're the
Yeah.
applicant in this matter. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it's true that you're that James J. Yan Sao, also known as James Y. Sao, and James J. Y. Sao, the decedent was your father. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And it's also true that your father died on January 23rd, 2023 at his residence here in Fort Bend County at the age of 95 years old.
Yes, that's correct.
And he was a resident of Fort Bend County at the time of his death.
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, if you could take, first of all, judicial notice of the true copy of the will and 3 handwritten codicils.
The court shall take judicial notice of the will and the 3 codicils on file.
Okay, yeah, can you pull up the will, the true copy of the will first?
Sure.
Thank you. So you'll see on the screen, Mr. Sal, that the judge has brought up a copy of the will. Do you recognize this as your father's last will and testament?
Yes, I do.
You recognize his signature and his initials. This will was dated May 4th, 2009. And as far as you know, your father never revoked this will, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, Your Honor, if you could also put out the first codicil to the will. It was a handwritten codicil. Mr. Sal, do you recognize this as the first codicil to your father's will?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize his handwriting and his signature on this?
Yes.
And this was dated September 14th, 2009, and then renewed on March 29th, 2018. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And to the best of your knowledge, your father never revoked this first codicil to the will?
That's correct.
Okay. Your Honor, if you could pull up the second codicil to the will, please.
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Sorry. I was looking down to see you put it up there. Okay. Do you recognize this as the second codicil to your will, Mr. Sal?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And this is your father's handwriting and signature. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And this is dated March 28th, 2019. And as far as you know, your father never revoked the second codicil to the will. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And Your Honor, one more codicil, the codicil of 3. Thank you. Mr. Sal, do you recognize this third codicil dated December 10th, 2020 as your father's third codicil to the will?
Yes, that's correct.
And do you recognize his handwriting and signature to this codicil?
Yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, your father never revoked this third codicil to the will. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So now after the date of the will and all the codicils, so that would be June 24th, May 4th, 2009, September 14th, 2009, renewed on March 29th, 2018, the second codicil, which is March 28th, 2019, and the third codicil, which was December 10th, 2020. So the earliest was in 2019. It's true that no children were born to or adopted by your father after the date of the will and the codicils. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
It's true that after the date of the will and the codicils that no marriage was dissolved by your father.
That's correct.
And it's true that the will and the codicils do not provide for any gifts to the state of Texas, a political subdivision thereof, or any charity.
Yes, that's correct.
It's true your father's estate also needs an administration of the estate. Is that correct?
Yes.
And it's true that the will, first, second, and third codicils appoint you as independent executor to serve without bond. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And are you qualified and not disqualified to serve as independent executor without bond and to receive letters testamentary?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And it's true that your father's estate also was not a taxable estate. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as a result, you're also asking this court to waive the appointment of appraisers for your father's estate.
Yes, that's correct.
Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Call your next witness.
Okay. Mr. Grisafi, I'm calling you, if you could please state your name again for the court.
Michael Grisafi.
And again, tell the court how you knew Mr. Sal.
I knew Mr. Sal. He and his wife were clients of mine since 2005.
Okay, so you've known him for 18 years or so. And
Yes.
Are you familiar with Mr. Sal's handwriting and signature?
Yes, I am.
And when you saw the will and the first, second, and third codicils that were put up on the screen by the judge, did you recognize Mr. Sal's signature?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and you have no reason were you aware of these wills and codicils at all?
Yes,
Okay, and you have no reason to believe that he ever revoked that will
I do not.
or or any of the codicils, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and at the time that he signed, and after, he was of a sound mind, is that correct?
Yes,
He was over the age of 18, is that correct?
yes.
Okay, Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Call your next witness.
Okay, we call him, Kenneth Lee, if you could, please again state your
Yes.
name for the court.
Sure. Kenneth Lee, also known as Kenneth Chi Lee.
And so will you also explain how you met Mr. Sao again?
Well, he was my professor when I attended Houston Baptist University in 1981. So I've known him about over 40 years.
Okay, great. And it's true you're familiar with Mr. Sao's handwriting and signature as well, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
And you saw the will and the first, second, and third codicils. Did you recognize his signature to each one of those?
Yes, I do, because he showed me some of his handwriting. He's writing a book, so yeah, I've seen that before.
Okay, great. So you saw his handwritten or a book. Okay, great. And at the time that he signed, which the earliest was March 29, 2019, 2009, May 4th, 2009, and the latest was December 10th, 2020. Was he of sound mind during that time and over the age of 18 years old?
Yes.
Okay. And as far as you know, you have no reason to believe that he revoked any of the will or the codicils that he signed. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Your
correct.
Honor, thank you. Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the court heard the testimony of Alwyn James Sao, Kenneth Lee, and Michael Grisafi. They testified as to the proof of death, validity of the will, and other facts. And I should say validity of a copy of the will and the three codicils presented to the court. The court will admit a copy of the will and three codicils and to probate and appoint Mr. Alwyn J. Sao, also known as Alwyn James Sao, as independent executor to serve without bond, and appraisers will be waived as well. I'm very sorry for your loss, Mr. Sao.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And Mr. Grisafi and Mr. Lee, thank you all for coming in to testify today to help us with this case. Y'all have a good day and stay dry.
Thank you very
All right.
much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Your Honor, I'm going to leave on this conference room and go to the other conference room.
And that's fine. I'm going to take this, I'm going to remove this conference room from the Zoom courtroom. But Miss Graham is still not in the waiting room yet. She may be still stuck in that hearing, so maybe a few minutes. I'm going to move on to the next case, and I'll come back to you as long as Miss Graham is there.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to move to Benjwani.
Judge, do you want me to send a note to Ms. Graham?
Please.
Yes, sir.
Morning. Morning, Judge.
Good morning. Uh-oh. Lost our applicant. I'll see. Let's hopefully he reconnects quickly.
Very well. I'm checking on him now, Judge. Give me one moment.
Yeah, he disconnected and maybe on accident. I'm just waiting for him to appear back in the Zoom waiting room, and he has not yet. There he is. He just popped in.
Perfect.
Okay, very good. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. Then let's go ahead and get started. We're on the record in 23 CPR 039065, estate of Nazmeen Noor Mohammed Panjwani. All those who intend to testify, if you would raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Do each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you provide here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Mr. Karim, you may get us started.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm going to call the applicant first, Mr. Malik Panjwani.
Proceed.
Mr. Panjwani, can you state your full name for the record, please?
Yes, it's Malik Panjwani.
Okay, and you're the applicant in this matter for independent administration?
Yes.
And the decedent, Nazmeen Panjwani, was your father, correct?
Yes.
And your father passed December 25th, 2022 in Fort Bend County?
Yes.
Okay, and prior to your father passing, your father was a resident of Fort Bend County, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Are you aware of your father having a will at the time of his death?
No.
Were you aware of your father ever having a will at any point?
No.
Okay. And you were here being asked, you were here asking to be appointed as an independent administrator without a bond, correct?
That is correct.
And you have one sibling?
Yes.
And what is her name?
Amina Ketani.
Okay. And Ms. Ketani, to your knowledge, has consented to your appointment here, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What was your mother's name?
Yasmin Panjwani.
Okay. And your mother predeceased your father, is that right?
Yes.
Your mother passed on November 22nd, 2022, so about 37 days before your father?
Yes.
Okay. And in the short time period between when your mother passed and your father passed, you're not aware of your father remarrying, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And why is independent administration necessary here?
It's primarily necessary so that we can proceed with a claim on an insurance policy that my father was a beneficiary to. And because first my mom passed away, and my father was the beneficiary of that policy, but unfortunately we could not file anything while he was alive, and then he suddenly passed away as well. So that's the reason why this is needed.
Okay. Pass the witness.
Mr. Doggett.
Just briefly, Judge, you didn't have any siblings that predeceased your father?
Right, I did not.
Okay. And did you ever discuss doing a will? Did your father ever discuss with you doing a will?
No.
And you've searched his belongings and you were not able to find a will?
Yes, I've not found any.
And your father never adopted any children?
That's correct, no.
And did he ever raise any children as his own?
No.
I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Kerman, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, I call Hussein Panjwani. Mr. Panjwani, can you state your full name for the record, please?
Hussein Panjwani.
What is your physical address? Where do you reside?
3459 Talia Wood Code, Missouri City, Texas 77459.
Okay. And what was your relationship with Nazmeen Panjwani, the decedent?
He was my brother.
Okay. Did you have close family relations while he was alive?
Yes.
Okay. Who are the members of Nazmeen's family?
I'm sorry?
Sorry. Who are the members of Mr. Panjwani's family that you're aware of?
it's two children. One is Malik Panjwani, and his sister, her daughter is Amina Khetani.
Okay. Are you aware of any adopted children?
No.
Are you aware if Mr. Panjwani, the decedent, had a will?
No.
Okay. And is your understanding that Mr. Panjwani's wife, Yasmin Panjwani, predeceased him, passed before he did?
Yes.
Are you aware if between the time period when Ms. Panjwani passed and Mr. Panjwani passed that he remarried?
No.
Okay.
Like no married.
Yeah. Are you aware of any will that the decedent had?
No.
Okay. And sitting here today, are you aware of any interest that's been left for you or left to you by the decedent?
No.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Doggett.
We spoke on the phone briefly, is that correct?
Yes.
And you indicated to me that you would have known if your brother had had other children besides the two that you just mentioned. Is that correct?
Yes.
And your brother has lived here in the United States for, I think you told me, did you tell me around 40 years?
Somewhere like that, yes.
Okay. And how long was he married to Yasmin, approximately?
To be around like plus 50 years.
Okay. And how often would you see your brother?
Very often, like now and then, yes, we go see each other.
Okay. And did you ever discuss with him him doing a will?
No.
And he was unmarried at the time of his death, correct?
Yes. Like his wife was deceased. Yeah.
Right. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Kareem, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, I call Nurjahan Danani. Mrs. Danani, looks like you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you. Can you state your full name for the record, please?
Nurjahan Danani,
What's your physical address?
2009 Kalina Cove, Cedar Park, Texas 78613.
Okay. What was your relationship to Nazmin Panjwani, the decedent?
He was my brother.
Did you and your brother have close relations during his life?
Yes.
Okay. Who do you know to be the members of Mr. Nazmin Panjwani's family?
He has two children, Amina Khetani and Malik Panjwani.
Okay. Are you aware of any adopted children?
No, he does not have any adopted children.
Okay. Are you aware of any will that Mr. Panjwani had?
No.
Okay. And can you confirm that the decedent's spouse, Yasmin Panjwani, passed away shortly before he did?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of Mr. Panjwani remarrying during the short time period between when his wife passed and when he passed?
No, he did not remarry.
Okay. And are you aware that Mr. Panjwani lived in Fort Bend County for many years pre-season before he passed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sitting here today, are you aware of any interest that's being left to you by the decedent of any kind?
No, sir.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Doggett.
We spoke briefly on the phone, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And did your brother raise any other children as his own?
No, sir.
Would you have known if your brother had had other children?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you ever discuss with your brother him doing a will?
No, sir.
And how often would you see your brother?
And lately, about once a week, sometimes twice a week, because I live in Austin and he lived in Houston.
Okay. And Well, he lived in Fort Bend County, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And has anybody promised you anything in exchange for your testimony today?
No, sir.
No further questions, Judge.
Mr. Kareem, anything further for the airship?
No, Your Honor.
right.
What we request that the independent administration be granted without bond. The order has been filed and the judgment requested has been filed as well.
Well, first off, after listening to testimony of Malik Panjwani, Rajin Dhanani, and Hussein Panjwani, the court finds by clear and convincing evidence, these errors are those listed in the judgment declaring airship. I'm going to discharge Mr. Doggett as attorney ad litem and award him a fee in the amount of $525 in this case. Further, after listening to testimony of Malik Panjwani, the court finds the decedent died intestate and there's a necessity for administration. The court will grant the request of the applicant and appoint Mr. Panjwani as independent administrator of the estate. Mr. Panjwani, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you so much, Your Honor.
And then thank you for our witnesses for coming in to allow us to finish up this case here today.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kareem, the order is signed and should be available to you shortly.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Y'all have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, we are in a holding pattern for the other cases. Ms. Graham is not available yet from her hearings in Harris County. We will take up Benton first. I'd say we will take up Herrera first, actually. So Ms. Pizzurro can move on. In fact, let me pull her in real quick to let her know what's going on.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Ms.
everyone.
Pizzurro. We are holding on our cases right now. The attorney ad litem is held up in Harris County in a forced meds hearing. Will be a few minutes before she joins us. I hope I'm not putting a strain on other courts where you need to go and interpret.
I am supposed to be at 4:34, starting at 10:30.
Okay.
And then we'll see because it's two pleas. So.
Well, hopefully she joins us within the next few minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yes, Your Honor. I'll be on hold.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
All right. We'll just hang tight. Ms. Pizzaro, I'm told that Ms. Graham, our ad litem, is logging in, so
Okay.
we should be able to get started here. Let me pull everybody in.
Yes, Your Honor.
Hello, Judge.
Hello. I'm told Ms. Graham is logging in. It'll be just a minute and just in the nick of time.
Okay. Can you see all of us okay, Judge?
Yes, I can.
I have my client in my office and her son.
All right, Ms. Graham, can you hear me?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you for your patience.
All right, let's get started. I'll go ahead and swear the interpreter in first, and then I'll swear everybody else. We're on the record in 23 CPR 039021, guardianship of Lucas Zul Barrera. Ms. Pizzaro, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will truly and accurately translate from English to Spanish and from Spanish to English so help you God?
I do.
All right. If I could have all those who intend to testify raise their right hand.
Si es que podría pedirles a todas las personas que van a dar testimonio que levanten su mano derecha.
Do each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony provided here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Cada uno de ustedes jura o confirman que el testimonio que van a brindar el día de hoy será la verdad, toda la verdad y nada más que la verdad.
Sí.
Yes.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Ms. Klazowski, why don't you get us started here today?
Thank you, sir.
Every few sentences to allow the interpreter to translate.
I will, Judge. I'll try to remember. I call Irma Leticia Barrera.
Voy a llamar a Irma Leticia Barrera.
Ms. Barrera, you are Lucas Barrera's mother, is that correct?
Señor Barrera, usted es la madre de Lucas Barrera, ¿correcto?
Sí.
Yes.
And you and Lucas live in Fort Bend County, is that correct?
Y usted y Lucas viven en el condado de Fort Bend, ¿correcto?
Sí.
Yes.
And you are seeking to be appointed guardian of the person for your son, Lucas, is that correct?
Y usted está buscando que le designen usted como la tutora de su hijo Lucas, ¿correcto?
Sí.
Yes.
And you have looked at alternatives to guardianship and looked at supports and services that would avoid the need for a guardianship, is that correct?
Y usted ha buscado alternativas de sustento y servicios que evitarían la necesidad de que se designe la custodia y la tutela, ¿correcto?
Sí.
Yes.
And none of those have been determined to be feasible, correct?
Y ninguno de esos se ha determinado que se puedan aplicar, ¿correcto?
Sí.
Yes.
And you qualify to serve as guardian for your son, is that correct?
Y usted está calificada para prestar servicios o servir como la tutora de su hijo, ¿correcto?
Sí.
Yes.
And your son has been determined to be totally incapacitated, correct?
Y se ha determinado que su hijo está totalmente discapacitado, ¿correcto?
Sí.
Yes.
I ask the court to take judicial notice of the physician certificate, Judge.
Le voy a pedir al juez que tome notificación judicial del certificado médico, juez.
The court shall take judicial notice.
Se toma notificación judicial.
And I am representing you through Brazos Bend Guardianship Services, correct?
Y yo le estoy representando a usted a través de Brazos Bend Guardianship Services, ¿correcto?
Sí.
Yes.
You are asking the court to order a minimal bond for you, is that correct?
Usted le está pidiendo al juez que le asigne a usted un bono mínimo para usted, ¿correcto?
Sí.
Yes.
And you are asking the court to appoint you as guardian of the person for your son, Lucas, correct?
Y usted le está pidiendo al juez que la designe a usted como la tutora para la persona de su hijo, Lucas, ¿correcto?
Sí.
Yes.
I pass the witness, Judge.
He terminado con la testigo, juez.
Ms. Graham.
Thank you,
Señora
Your
Graham.
Honor. Sorry about that. Do you understand that when you're the guardian of the person, it will be your job to take care of Lucas, just like you did when he was a minor child?
¿Usted entiende que ser tutora de la persona, como tutora de la persona, su trabajo es cuidar de Lucas como lo hacía usted cuando él era un menor?
Sí.
Yes.
And Lucas has pervasive developmental disorder, is that correct?
Y Lucas tiene un impedimento del desarrollo permanente, ¿correcto?
Sí.
Yes.
So he would not be able to understand or sign a financial power of attorney or a medical power of attorney, is that correct?
Y entonces él no podría tener la capacidad de entender ni firmar un poder para un abogado, ni tampoco un poder para un médico, ¿correcto?
Sí.
Yes.
And is it true that guardianship is the only avenue for you to get the ability to help Lucas and to make sure his medical needs are met?
Y es verdad que la tutela sería la única vía para permitirle a usted la capacidad de ayudar a Lucas cuando se necesite algún tipo de servicio médico?
Sí.
Yes.
Is Lucas able to drive a motor vehicle?
¿Lucas puede manejar un vehículo motorizado?
No.
No.
Is he able to make independent decisions about where he should live?
¿Él puede tomar decisiones independientes acerca de dónde puede vivir?
No.
No.
And is it true that he would not be able to understand or vote in a public election?
Y es verdad que él no podría ni comprender ni ni entender ni votar en una elección pública.
No.
No.
And he would not be able to make decisions about marriage, is that correct?
Y él no podría tomar decisiones acerca de matrimonio, ¿correcto?
No.
No.
Does Lucas have any property in his name?
¿Lucas tiene alguna propiedad bajo su nombre?
No.
No.
But we've talked about the importance of applying for Social Security benefits for Lucas. Do you recall that?
Pero hemos hablado acerca de la importancia de solicitar servicios de seguro social para beneficio de Lucas. ¿Usted se acuerda de eso?
No.
No.
And we talked about, do you recall us speaking about benefits available to Lucas through Social Security?
¿Se acuerda usted de haber hablado acerca de beneficios disponibles para Lucas a través del seguro social?
Sí tiene los beneficios.
He does have the benefits.
And you report to those, to Social Security for those benefits, correct?
Y usted reporta al seguro social por esos beneficios, ¿correcto?
Sí.
Yes.
I passed the witness, Your Honor.
He terminado con la testigo, su señoría.
Ms. Kozlowski.
I have nothing further, Judge.
Ya no tengo más preguntas, juez.
Ms. Graham, are your fees 805.74? Is that correct?
That is a correct amount, Your Honor. I think my order says it would be a county pay because of the guardianship.
After listening to testimony, the court finds by clear and convincing evidence that Lucas Barrera is totally incapacitated and need a guardian with full authority over the person. The court finds the guardianship is warranted and appoints Ms. Irma Tisha Barrera as a guardian of the person of the proposed ward.
Después de haber oído el testimonio, el juez halla con evidencias claras y contundentes que se necesita una persona que sea tutora de Lucas Barrera y que él está totalmente discapacitado. Se necesita una persona que sea tutora con total autoridad sobre la persona y esta persona designada será la señora Irma de Barrera.
Bond is set at $50, and I'm going to discharge Ms. Graham as attorney ad litem and award her a fee in the amount of $805.74. County pay.
Voy a asignar un pago de $50 a la señora Graham y un pago, perdón, de honorarios de $805.74 pagados por el condado a la señora Graham.
Ms. Kozlowski, if you would just remind your client of the duties that she has now as a guardian of the person and the report that will need to be filed each year.
Yes, sir, I will. I have given her the form already.
Señora Krasavsky, si podría simplemente recordarle a su cliente acerca de los deberes que ahora tiene como tutora de la persona y de las tasas que se han impuesto el día de hoy.
All right, thank you all. You'll have a good day. You're free.
Gracias a
Thank you,
todos.
Judge.
Tenga un buen día.
Ms. Pizzurro, thank you.
Your Honor.
Ms. Graham, hang tight. We've got Benton now.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Dean, thank you for your patience. We now have Ms. Graham with us.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And I have Camille Aldridge and Joyce
Yeah.
Benton joining us.
Yes, I can hear you.
Ms. Benton, are you there?
Yes. I'm here. Oh, you're looking for Miss Joyce Benton.
Joyce Benton, my apologies. Ms. Joyce Benton, are you there?
I'm going to have my office call her in case she stepped away. Not answering. She said she was.
Joyce Benton, are you there? Miss Joyce Benton?
Hello, I'm here.
Okay, very good. All right, let's get started. We're on the record in 23 CPR 038874, State of Stanley Reed Benton. All those who intend to testify, if you would raise your right hand to be sworn by the court. Each of you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony provided here today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Very good. All right, Ms. Dean, why don't you get us started with the airship first, and then we'll move into the administration after that.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I'm first calling Beverly Ann Benton. Would you please state your full name for the court? Beverly Ann Benton. And you are the wife of Stanley Reed Benton. That's correct. And you've been married to him for 45 years, is that correct? And known him almost 48 years? Yes, that's correct. Okay, great. And did your husband die on November 14th, 2022 at his home here in Fort Bend County at the age of 67 years old? Yes, he did. And at the time of his death, was he a resident of Fort Bend County? Yes. And to the best of your knowledge, your husband did not have a valid will, is that correct? And it's true that you were married to him at the time of his death? Correct. You were married on May 24th, 1985, that's correct? Correct. And no children were born to your husband or you during that marriage, is that correct? And Mr. Benton had another wife, and this prior wife was Sandra Benton, and they were divorced on December 31st, 1981, here in Fort Bend County. Is that correct? And it's true that no children were born or adopted during his first year of marriage. Is that correct? Or first marriage?
What was the answer, please?
Pardon me?
Can you repeat your answer?
Oh, can you repeat the answer to that no children were born to the marriage of Sandra Benton, his first marriage?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
And as far as you know, and you've known him a very long time, your husband didn't have any children at all?
No.
In or outside of marriage, is that correct?
No children.
Your Honor, I pass the witness.
I don't have any questions for the applicant, Your Honor.
Call your next witness.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. So I call Ms. Turnoff, excuse me, Aldridge. And you're muted right now.
Right. Okay, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Can you please state your full name for the court?
Camille Chernock Aldridge.
It's true, you're personally familiar with the family and marital history of Stanley Reed Benton, is that correct?
Yes.
And you are well acquainted with him, is that right?
Yes.
How long have you known Mr. Benton?
As far back as I can remember.
So basically your whole life, right?
My entire life, yes, ma'am.
Yes, that you can remember, okay. And tell them how well you knew them and Mr. Benton.
Stanley's mother is my godmother and his father is my godfather. And they were best friends with my parents. And as far back as I can remember, going to their home, interacting with them. Birthdays, it was all spent together.
And did you stay in touch throughout your whole life?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you would know what happened with his marriages and if he had any children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and it's true that Mr. Benton died on November 14th, 2022 at the age of 67 years old here in Fort Bend County. Is that right?
Yes.
And he was married to Beverly Ann Benton, who's sitting right here, in 1985, and he was married to Beverly at the time of his death. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and they had no children of their marriage.
That's correct.
And it's true that he had a prior marriage, a marriage to Sandra Benton. That was a short marriage, year or less, in 1981. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and he was divorced from Sandra Benton, and they had no children that were born to or adopted during the marriage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And he had, and you know of no other children that were born to or adopted by him?
No, ma'am.
And he didn't take any children into his own home to raise them as his own children, is that correct? Or any
Not
person to raise? Okay, and you would have known him well enough should he had any other children out there?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
To the best of your knowledge, did Mr. Benton have a will?
I do not believe so.
Okay, and you have no interest in Mr. Benton's estate. You're not going to receive any gifts by inheritance or other distributions?
No, ma'am.
Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Ms. Graham.
I'm Miss Aldridge. Do you recall speaking to me on the telephone?
Yes, ma'am.
And you told me you grew up with Stanley, is that correct?
That is correct.
And that there was a period of time he actually lived out of state. He was in, I believe it was Georgia. And
That's
you
right.
stayed in contact with him during that time. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am. We would write letters, that's back before cell phones. So we would talk on the phone every once in a while. It wasn't as much contact as when he was living here, but we still kept in contact.
And if he had had any significant life experiences, like he had gotten married or had children, that's something he would have told you, do you believe?
Oh, most definitely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you and Stanley were in the same friend group, is that correct?
That's correct.
And do you recall telling me that y'all talked about creating a will, but to your knowledge, he never executed a will. Is that correct?
That's correct. You know, when you're our age, you think we're gonna last forever.
And had he created a will, do you believe that's something he would have mentioned to you?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, he had a mother and a father. Can you tell me his mother's name?
Clara Lee.
And Clara Lee is still alive, is that correct?
That's correct. She lives in Georgia.
And who's his father?
Oscar Lee Benton, and he's deceased.
And is Oscar Lee, sorry, I actually couldn't hear some of that. Let me ask you this question. Is it true that Oscar passed away before Stanley?
Yes.
And then he has a half brother, is that correct?
Who, Stanley?
Yes, ma'am.
A half brother and a half sister.
Yes, and is that Keith Lewis Burson and Leslie Dietz?
Yes.
Okay, have I failed to mention any other sibling, brother or sister, or half brother or sister that Stanley had?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And do you have any understanding as to whether or not the family searched for a will or Miss Beverly searched for a will?
Yes.
And did anyone ever mention finding a will or finding any written wishes?
No, ma'am.
And as you knew Stanley through his entire life, did he ever serve in the military or live abroad for a period of time?
No.
So there'd be no reason to think he would have a child in another country?
No, ma'am.
Okay, I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Dean.
Right. I have no further questions. Ms. Turnoff Aldrich.
Call your next witness.
I call Joyce Benton.
Speaking.
Ms. Benton, can you state your full name for the court?
Joyce Elaine Benton.
And you're personally familiar with the family and marital history of Stanley Reed Benton, is that correct?
That's correct.
And how long have you known Mr. Benton?
Since he was 10 years old.
And you were his stepmother?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you've known him basically all his life, except for
yes,
up to 10 years old. Okay. And it's true that Mr. Benton died on November 14th, 2022 at the age of 67 years old here in Fort Bend County. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And he was married to Beverly Ann Benton in 1985 and was married to her at the time of his death. Is that right?
Yes.
And it's true that Mr. Benton had a prior marriage for about a year, and it was a marriage to Sandra Benton in 1981. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, were there any children born to or adopted by him during that marriage?
No, there weren't.
Were there any children born to or adopted during his second marriage?
No, they weren't.
Were you aware of any other children that could have been born to or adopted by Mr. Benton?
No, he had no children.
And you've known him well enough and for so long that you would have known if he had other children.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And your husband, which was Mr. Benton, he has passed away. Is that correct?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Yes, he is.
I'm sorry. And that there was 2 half siblings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Leslie and Keith.
Okay, great. All right. And to the best of your knowledge, did Mr. Benton have a will?
Not that I know of.
Okay. And it's true that you have no interest in Mr. Benton's estate. You're not going to receive anything by gift or inheritance. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Your Honor, I pass the witness.
Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Your Honor. Miss Benton, you were married to Stanley's father, Oscar. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And after Oscar passed away, you stayed in contact with Stanley. Is that right?
Yes, not frequently, but occasionally.
But you feel that you were in contact with him enough that you were familiar with his marriages and who his children were?
Definitely.
And if he had had a child, is that something he would have told you?
he would have at least spoken with his father about it, and then I would have known for sure. But he had no children.
Okay. And do you agree that he never served in the military?
Yes.
And did he ever discuss a will with you or talk about making a will or writing down his wishes?
No, ma'am.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
I have no further questions.
Any further witnesses you'd like to call?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Graham, your fee in this matter is $1,246. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. And if I could, just for the record, let the court know that I spoke to 5 witnesses in this case. We had a little bit of difficulty getting 2 folks who knew Stanley for a number of years, but I also spoke to Michael Wayne Leslie, Deborah Ann Michael, and Catherine Kathy Kelly, who all offered corroborating testimony at different seasons of Stanley's life. And I just want the court to be aware that there's a little more investigation than what was here. And I do feel comfortable that the contents of the application from Ms. Beverly are correct.
Okay. Ms. Dean, is that number opposed or agreed?
It's agreed.
All right. After listening to testimony of Beverly and Benton, Joyce Benton, and Camille Aldridge, the court finds by clear and convincing evidence, these errors are those listed in the judgment declaring heirship. I'm going to discharge Ms. Graham as attorney ad litem in this matter and order a fee the amount of $1,246. Let's go ahead and move into the administration real quick. Ms. Graham, thank you. You're free to go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Benton, Joyce Benton,
Yes,
you
sir.
are also free to go. Ms. Aldridge, you're free to go. Thank y'all so much for your assistance here today.
Thank you. Take care, Beverly.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you too.
Thank y'all so much. Bye.
Bye-bye. I'll talk to you soon.
Ms. Dean, the administration.
Yes, so I call Ms. Beverly Benton again. You have requested this court to appoint you as independent administrator of this estate. Correct. Are you qualified and not disqualified to serve as independent administrator and to receive letters of administration? Yes, I am. And it's true that the other heirs, which would be the mother, Claire Lee Burson, and 2 half siblings, so that's Keith Lewis Burson and Leslie Dietz, have all consented to you being the independent administrator and for you to be appointed. That's correct. And to the best of your knowledge, is it true that this is not a taxable estate? That's correct. But there is a necessity for the administration of this estate. Correct. But because it's not taxable, you're asking this court to waive the appointment of appraisers. Is that right? Thank you, Your Honor. I pass the witness.
Thank you. After listening to testimony of Beverly and Benton, the court finds the decedent died intestate and there's a necessity for administration. The court will grant the request the applicant appoint Ms. Benton as independent administrator of the estate. Ms. Benton, I'm very sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Thank
Ms.
you.
Dean, anything further for the record?
No, that is it. Thank you.
All right. The order is now signed and you should be able to get a copy of it here shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Y'all have a good day.
You too. You too. Bye-bye.